Right, we're going to do like a deep core workout, which deep core work and pelvic floor work is something that so many people miss out because it's quite boring. It's slow paced. You don't really break a sweat. You don't come away from it thinking you've achieved something. You don't feel that you're getting these personal bests. You don't feel instant results from it. You just don't get that same dopamine hit that you would from a harder workout. But miss this out and you could just be leaving the door open to future issues. Whether you've had kids or not, it doesn't matter whether you've had kids or not. Having a strong core and a strong pelvic floor will just increase your quality of life and decrease the chance of injury right now, but also as you get older. So it is even more so important if you have had kids, especially if you haven't ever done the work to strengthen your core again. It doesn't just happen over time. You have to actually put the work in to strengthen it. But whether that's the case or not, having a strong core, strong deep core is really important because your abdominals are sort of in 3 layers, and the deep core muscles that we're going to look at here is called the TVA, so like transverse abdominals, and it's the deepest core layer that wraps around like that corset effect, and it helps to support and stabilize your spine and your pelvic floor. So often people think of core work as crunches or like any kind of crunchy movement. That does work your core, but that's more the outer layer. And especially if you have had kids and you've never strengthened your deep core, especially if you're very, very new to postpartum, don't do outer core work like the crunching stuff until you have strengthened your deep core. Because again, you're just going to cause havoc potentially later on with back pain, pelvic floor issues, and just don't do it. So also, going with the theme of imperfect action, excuse the pink blanket. I cannot find the yoga mat or my exercise mat for the life of me, but I'm doing this anyway. So yes, this is Penny's pink blanket. So first of all, I'm going to show you or try to talk through how to get that TVA activation. So can you actually activate your deep core muscle? A way that we often describe it is brace for impact. So if you imagine you were sort of maybe lying on the floor or you were standing and somebody was going to come and punch you in the stomach, or the kids were going to come and jump on your tummy, you would do that. You would brace for impact. That's quite a good way of thinking about it. But in a more controlled way, practice sitting, whether you're on the chair or on the floor, and I want you to at the same time think of drawing your pelvic floor up and also drawing your core in, like drawing your belly button in towards your spine. It's not just sort of sucking your tummy in. Pull up and brace inwards. So try that now. Pull up and brace inwards. So if you were to literally feel your stomach now, it might be harder than it was if you relax, touch your stomach, maybe a bit more soft. Put your hand here even, draw up, brace inwards, and it comes in and it goes harder. Now, breathe through it. And relax. And do it again. So like if you were to think of your bicep, you would contract, you would relax. You'd contract, you'd relax. Try to do that with your deep core muscles now. So pull it in, breathe it out. Draw it in, breathe it out. Especially if you've never done core work in general, or you have a young baby, it might be hard to even activate that muscle if it's not worked in a wee while. But this does take practice, but it's something that the more you do it, the stronger it will get. Now, I'm going to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different deep core exercises that I'll do with you. So like just follow me along. But feel free, once we've worked through all 6, start again and maybe do 2 or 3 rounds of this if you have time for it. If not, once through is also fine. But just follow me and watch what I'm doing. I am going to speak a little bit, not as much as I usually do, but when you're concentrating on that deep core, concentrating on it but breathing at the same time is really important. Don't hold your breath. But that's why I'm not going to talk very much, because that's not going to get me the best core contraction. So starting off with cat-cow, and I don't know why so many of these have animals as names. Cat, cow, you're going to start in tabletop position. So hands under your shoulders, knees under your hips. Now you're going to arch your back up, draw your belly button into your spine, contract your core, and then relax. Now I don't like to hyperextend at the bottom. Tip your tailbone up a wee bit, but don't overdo that. That would be the cow position. So cat, draw your belly up. Again. Breathe in here. Breathe out here. One more time. Breathe in. Breathe out. Relax. Cat cow. Bird dog, we're going to stay in tabletop position to start with. Now you want to imagine you're balancing a tray of drinks on your back and you're trying not to spill them. So the wider, not too wide, but your 4 points of contact with the floor is important. So spread your fingers and keep your why do I keep calling these my heels? My knees under your hips. Don't have your knees together because that's going to make you more wobbly. Widen your knees and widen your fingers. Now opposite arm and leg, nice and slow and controlled, and then back to the middle and then switch. Keep that core brace for impact. That will help to stabilize your spine. You don't want, when you lift that knee, you don't want to tip over to that side. You want to try and keep your balance, your weight, sort of center of gravity where it is. Now if you want to make this harder, stick to one side, come in but don't make contact with the floor, and go back out. And then you would do sort of 10 on one side and then switch to the other. Core braced. There. Now, dead bug. Again, don't ask me why on the name. So this is quite a hard one. If you struggle with coordination, this one can be a challenge. But what you're going to do is basically the opposite of the bird dog. You're doing a bird dog, but you're upside down basically. So starting here, you can see me. Lift your knees to tabletop and lift your hands here. Now opposite arm and leg, extend and then come back. The key here is that your lower back doesn't arch away from the floor. If you can see, if your hand can sort of fit under there, your core's not braced. You need to push that down, push your back into the floor so you cannot fit a hand under there. And that has to be the case the whole way throughout. If at any point you feel your back is coming away from the floor, just don't extend so far. The further you extend, the harder it is. So if you're struggling to keep your back flat, just go half and that's enough and you can build it up. So from here, hands up here, back push into the floor, opposite arms and legs. Breathe in here. Breathe out. Keep your core braced, keep your back pushed into the floor. If you're struggling with that, again, a half rep would just hold it here. Just go halfway until you feel that sort of shaking on your core, then draw it back in. Dead bug. Right, plank. Planks are very, very good. Now there's kind of 4 variations you can do with your plank. You can be on your forearms or your hands, you can be on your knees, or you can be on your feet. I like to be on my forearms and my feet. That just works for me. I have a bit funny wrist, whatever works for you. But for a plank, you want your shoulders, your hips and your ankles or knees, whichever is making contact with the floor, to be in one straight line. And again, you want to brace your core for impact, and pelvic tilt, you want to be neutral, if not anterior. So often when people plank, their bum is sticking out, so their lower back has that real curve in it. You want to flatten that. If your lower back is curved, if I show you here without hurting my back, if your bum sticks out and your lower back is curved, there's no contraction in your core here. You want the opposite. You want to tuck. See how my bum sort of tucks between, I think of it as tucking your tail between your legs. So you can have your bum out or your bum tucked. You want to tuck your bum, and that will help to keep your back neutral, help to stop that dip in the bottom of your back, but also help to contract your core when you tip your pelvis in that way. So go ahead and hold a plank. Now, hold a plank for as long as you can until your form starts to slip or until it starts to feel uncomfortable, and then stop. Time it, write it down, and then work on it. So try to do like 3 planks. Plank for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever it is. Stop, have a wee rest, and then try again. And then try again. And write these numbers down, and over time, you want that number to be increasing. So if I was going to go forearms and my feet, so my shoulders, my hips, my ankles are in one straight line. If I'm up here, my core is not doing any work. If my hips are too low, I'm going to hurt my back. Hips here. Breathe and brace your core. You don't need to watch me doing this. You get the gist. Hold that for as long as you can. Single leg drop. So again, back onto your back, feet up from here. Now you can do this with 2 feet at a time, but it's much, much harder. If you haven't done much core work before, if you know your core is weak, just go 1 foot at a time. But all you're going to do, again, make sure that your back is pushed into the floor. If it's coming away, stop and readjust, or don't take your foot down so low. You're going to drop 1 foot at a time to the floor and back. Brace your core for impact, as if someone's going to come and jump on your stomach right now. Brace. If that's too much, just go halfway. That's fine. As long as it's hard for you, as long as you can feel it in your core, and as long as your back is flat. You can hear my voice shaking. That's just because my core is so activated. Good. Okay, last one we'll do is a bridge. So bridge, hip thrust, that kind of movement, predominantly for strengthening your glutes, but also if you've got your core activated and you're conscious of your pelvic floor, it will help to activate that too. Strong glutes can help to strengthen your lower back as well, and your lower back is part of your core. Think of it like a corset. We want to strengthen your whole core, not just the front bit. We want to have a strong lower back too. So you can just do simple bridges where you lift your hips up, pause for a second, put them back down, and just do that. If that's too easy for you, or you want something more advanced, as you've lifted your hips, pick a foot up, pick a other foot up, bum back down, bum up, foot up, back down. So pick the variation that works for you. So, you're going to have your heels under your knees, just about, and you want to keep your weight in your heels. Push through your heels. Don't push through your toes. Push through your heels. So you're going to lift your hips up, tuck your hips under, activate that core, pause, and back down. Touch the floor, just back up. Squeeze. That squeeze at the top is important. This is where you want to see, even if you just want to hold it there for 2, 3, 4 seconds, drop back down. But do this nice and controlled. If you're able to march a foot each time, so lift your bum, 1 foot, 2 foot, back down. Or you can simply just bridge. Hold here for 10 seconds. Drop back down. Touch, just back up. Hold again. Find a variation that you find difficult, but not too difficult or painful. So those would be the 6 exercises that I would stick to again if I was going back to like strengthening my core from the start or back to postpartum. That's the 6 exercises that I would do. As I say, they're not particularly exciting. I would just keep repeating the same ones because we know that these ones work, and there's not a huge amount of variation of deep core exercises. There are more, but I would just stick to that so that you can see and feel improvements. If you keep changing it too much, you don't know if you're progressing. But repeating the same exercises, you should start to feel stronger, and that it's easier and that you're more capable, and that's when you know that your core is getting stronger. So I would do this if you're starting from scratch and you've never really worked on your core. I would do this every other night, and you can see like that took me 10 minutes. If you repeated that, obviously I'm talking through it whilst I'm doing it. If you did the 6 exercises, maybe repeated it twice, something like that every other night. You can do it in your pajamas, you can do it in front of the telly. You don't have to warm up and cool down, you don't have to be at the gym, you don't have to get your trainers on. You can let you do it with a blanket on the floor. So every other night, and you should see a difference.